Now, I'm not usually one to follow, whatever the hot, viral trend is to comment on out there on Twitter. But but this time I'm gonna make an exception. So let's begin. Yeah, I'm gonna make an exception because I saw a lot of people that I consider friends. You know what I mean? And not just personal friends. I mean just kind of in the general sense too. Some of them are personal friends, but others, just friends in the battle, so to say. And they weren't understanding what was going on here. But I think I can help here. You know what I mean? I think that whatever I'm about to say is going to be so reasonable. It's sure to please everybody. And so, I just figured if I can help, if I could be of assistance, of some kind of value, that I would try. First, before I begin, let me just give you a few of my bona fides here, because you might be wondering, well, AD, who gives you the right? What gives you the right? Who do you think you are? And I'm going to tell you who I am. I became a Christian later in life. You know what I mean? So I lived my 20s, pretty much all of my 20s. As a pagan, and so I've, seen a thing or two. I did the whole dating thing when I was younger. This lady here appears to be, in her early 20s. So, I've had a lot of experience when it comes to the red flags that a guy might notice and things of that nature. And I want to go ahead and agree that that this situation, I'll show you the video in a minute. This lady puts out a lot of red flags. It's as simple as that. And I'm not here to tell you that it's quite as simple as this lady presents as very promiscuous. I don't even think that factors in too much. You know what I mean? There definitely are warning signs there, but I that's not what I saw when I first saw this. I didn't read this as promiscuous, but I did read this as there's red flags. No question about it, red flags. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to play the video for you, and we'll talk a little bit about it, and I think by the end you'll agree with me that there's some flags, So let's go ahead and dive right in, and we'll just play it all the way through. Here we go.
Okay, I'm Riley. I'm 24. I'm from
All right, well, hold on. Before I begin, just to if you're not watching it, because sometimes when I'm listening to YouTube videos, I'm not really watching, I'm just listening. So what this is, it appears to be, I don't really know a whole lot about it, but what it appears to be is some kind of a dating show, right? Some kind of a dating show where, the lady introduces herself, gives a quick pitch, and the guys decide if they're interested in, finding out more about her. You know what I mean? Which, okay, fine. It's a dating show. Who cares? So this is her quick pitch.
Okay, I'm Riley. I'm 24. I'm from Houston, Texas. And honestly, I'm down for any good adventure. I just got scuba dive certified, and I'm planning to go to Australia this summer, so I'm super excited about that. And then I just picked up skiing like 2 years ago, and I honestly love any themed party. Like, those are like my favorite things to go to, my favorite things to plan. And I'm looking for someone that wants to be my adventure buddy, and it's someone that I can trust in and is going to be there for me.
Aww.
Adorable. Absolutely adorable. Look at these D-bags. That's a bunch of D-bags there.
They're nervous. They're
Come on,
scared.
guys.
Ooh, they're so
Anyone.
scared. Come on.
Hey, Riley, we're going to have you sit down, but thank you for introducing yourself.
Yeah. So nobody was interested after hearing Riley's pitch. And this has confused many people. I mean, I saw in the comments here, here's Megan Basham. What the heck? She's adorable and sweet. And there's Victoria here. I don't know who that is. Modern Lilith. That doesn't sound too promising. She says the way the girls would definitely go for her shows that the male loneliness epidemic is self-inflicted. Many men don't want cool girls like that because then they would actually have to put effort into the relationship. People are very confused. And it's not just women that are confused. Men are confused too. But when I saw this, I was not confused at all. I instantly knew what was going on here. So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. she's down for a good adventure. You know what I mean? She's got her scuba diving license. She's going to Australia. She's learned how to ski. I mean, she's looking for an adventure buddy. You know, and it sounds a lot like a lot of fun. And to be honest, like, look, I don't go scuba diving. I like snorkeling. Snorkeling's fun. Skiing, you know, is cool. I've skied a few times in my life. I wouldn't say I'm that into it, but I've skied. I know how to ski. You know, and all those activities, you know, they sound fun. And who doesn't like a good adventure, right? That's what a lot of people are saying. You know, she sounds like fun, and she's cute, and she's, you know, she seems really nice. And I agree. She seems nice and all of that. But people are wondering, well, what's the deal here? Why is nobody interested? And so I'm gonna just. I've heard a few things about this video. One thing that I heard from Jacob Honeycutt, I don't know, maybe this is like his favorite show. I'm just kidding, Jacob. I like Jacob Honeycutt. He said that this is a bunch of Mormons, number one, and number two, they couldn't see each other, right? So the guys are in a separate room, and she's presenting in a separate room, right? So this is just like a voice pitch, right? So there's a couple things going on. I'm gonna pretend like they could see her, right? Because I think honestly, it does change the dynamic a little bit of what's going on here, but I don't think it necessarily would change the red flags if that makes sense. So what's the deal here, right? So the first thing is that this is a good example of a I like to travel kind of girl, right? A travel girl. And people are wondering, what's the big deal? Who cares about travel? You know, all that. Like, you know, here's the deal, right? Nothing wrong with travel. Nothing wrong with a woman wanting to see the world. You know what I mean? And lots of them do. How many times have you seen on dating profiles, I'd like to travel, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? Lots of women do. But here's the thing, guys. Number one, most men, I'm not saying all men, some men do want to travel, but most men are completely fine staying within a 30-mile radius of their house pretty much all the time, right? Now, I've traveled myself, and the reason I travel is oftentimes not really because I desire to travel. It's because my wife desires to travel, and I love my wife. I know her, and, you know, I think she's great, and I want to please her, and so I'll take her to a place, and we'll go and we'll travel. And that's totally fine, right? But here's the thing, though. This lady is introducing herself for the first time. This is her pitch. And so when she talks about all of these adventures that she wants to do, she's looking for an adventure buddy. It sounds like a big hassle, and nobody knows this girl yet. So it's like, you got to get to know me first before we start planning our adventures. This is a travel girl. She wants to do her adventures and go this way and that and all of that. It just sounds like a big hassle. And most of the guys that are watching this, they're really not into that. You know what I mean? And they'll become into that if they've got a wife that, you know, they wants to travel and they love their wife. They'll take her places and all of this. But this is really not what guys are like. This doesn't get most guys going. Now, of course, there are exceptions, right? There are exceptions. Some guys like to do the eat, pray, love thing. You know, listen, it's not for me, but some guys do. You know, they want to go on adventures and pretend they're Indiana Jones. Well, here's the problem with this, fellas. Like, Indiana Jones was going on adventures, but he was going to rob graves, right? He had a purpose in it. It wasn't just to go find himself and to spiritually discover, you know, the different secrets about himself by going to Tibet and, you know, learning from monks and stuff like that. That's what he was doing. He was going to rob the grave. That's a little different, guys. It's a little different. Yeah, I always find that funny, you know, people describing themselves as the real Indiana Jones. It's like, now, did you rob a grave? If you didn't rob a grave, then no, you were just doing eat, pray, love. It's a lot different. So that's the first thing. The second thing is and this is from experience, guys. I'm just telling you, this is just how it is. This is how real life is. A lot of the travel girls, look, and there's a difference between a woman that likes to travel and one that makes it their whole personality, right? Like, because that's the thing, right? It's one thing if a lady likes to travel. It's another thing is if this is like front and center of their dating profile. And in this situation, this is how she introduced herself. I'm Riley and I like to travel. By the way, I'm looking for an adventure buddy. This is her personality. So here's the problem with that. The travel personality, they call it wanderlust. You know, they that's what they call it. They call it wanderlust. Even the name has a negative connotation to it. wanderlust rarely limits itself to just travel, if you catch my drift, right? Like, these women are looking for constantly a new experience, and they want to do this and they want to experience that and they want to try the whole menu and they want to do all this stuff. And if it's just travel, okay, we can deal with that. But this personality, when it becomes your whole personality, it rarely just stays with travel. It also carries over into other aspects of your life. And that's a red flag. I'm sorry to say, but it's a red flag. I'm not sorry to say. Why did I apologize right there? I don't even know. It's a red flag. You know, that wanderlust, it doesn't isolate itself into I just want to see the world. It carries over into every part of your personality, especially when you yourself are telling the men that you're, pitching that this is who you are. This is who you are. So it's a red flag. Does that mean that every woman that has the wanderlust tattoo on them is gonna, want to experience, other things in other aspects of their life? Is gonna have that wanderlust in other aspects of their life, or maybe just regular lust? It doesn't mean that everyone is gonna have that, but it's a red flag. And here's the thing: there's nothing wrong. This is something that you got to get through your skull, guys. There is nothing wrong with when you're evaluating who to take as a wife to try to mitigate risk. People are going to tell you that this means that you're not affirming them, or you're not being a Christian if you're not trying to mitigate risk. You should. Marriage is very important, right? And so just because not every girl, maybe Riley's one of them, not every wanderlust, kind of I love to travel type of girl is going to carry that personality over to other aspects of her life. Just because not every girl is going to do that doesn't mean that that's not a risk factor that you should consider when you're considering whether or not to date someone or to marry someone. You absolutely should. It was the same kind of controversy that I saw with the Protestia tweet, right? Which I don't really care so much about the Protestia tweet. I felt personally that it was overly simplistic, but I kind of see what their point is, of course. Yes, of course, it's better to date a Christian than a non-Christian. That's obvious, but it's overly simplistic the way that they kind of did the two choices, right? Because the Christian girl that had a past of promiscuity, or I don't even remember exactly how they put it. Maybe it was it an OnlyFans girl or something like that. Like, it's true that if you had only those two choices, probably one would be better than the other. But also, you got to understand that there's other risk factors at play here that you need to consider. And so mitigating that risk and feeling like there's some tension there, you know what I mean? It's not quite as simple as Christian, non-Christian, because not every person, like, there's other aspects to people than simply Christian or non-Christian, right? Like, people have all other kinds of things that you need to consider when you're mitigating the risk of, look, getting married is always a risk. You're always leaving yourself exposed, right? At some point. But there's nothing wrong with making your selection mitigating as much risk as possible. This is why people sometimes will consider, the student loans that their potential wife has, right? If they have $100K in student loans, that's something to consider as well. Like, is that the end all be all? Nobody's saying it's the end all be all, but it's definitely factoring in to your decision making. It has to. It has to. Like, there's nothing about Christianity and understanding that God can forgive sinners and understanding that that their sin is wiped clean in God's eyes. There's nothing about that makes you kind of, now you just have to just throw caution to the wind automatically. No, there's risk factors, and you consider all of the risk factors. That's the situation. That's the situation. And so, like, this woman is. This is her pitch. This is her dating profile, right? And so she's the one who selected what to tell you. There could be other parts of what she's looking for and what she brings to the table. And that's great. And that's why I'm not saying anything definitive about this particular woman. But I'm just saying, if my son was considering, like he saw this video and was considering throwing his hat into the ring, these are the things that I would talk to him about. It's just as simple as that. It's as simple as that. She chose what to present. Now, does this mean that if you're, I'm trying to cover all angles here, guys, but does this mean that that this is not a suitable wife for somebody out there? No, it doesn't mean that, right? But there's obvious red flags here. There's obvious red flags here. Again, when a woman makes travel part and parcel of their personality, so much so that when they're pitching themselves, that's what they talk about. Looking for an adventure buddy. That is a big warning sign for other areas of her life. The other thing too that you need to consider is that I saw Conley Owens say this, right? Conley Owens is the guy with the Dorean principle. He pastors a church in the Bay Area, and he made it so simple. He's like, what she's saying is she's looking for a helper. She's looking for a man to be her helper. She's looking for an adventure buddy. What's an adventure buddy going to do? Well, it's going to make her adventures a little bit easier. Probably going to be paying for them. Probably going to be, organizing them. Probably going to be protecting her on those adventures and stuff like that. She's looking for an adventure buddy. There's nothing wrong with any of those things. When we travel, me and my wife, I pay. I plan. I help plan. She plans most of the time. I protect her when we're on vacation. Like that. There's nothing wrong with any of that, right? But the thing is, she's got it flipped. She's got this whole thing flipped. Instead of looking to be a helper, she's looking for a helper. You see that? It's very simple. It's very simple. But I think, and most of these guys, I mean, look at these D-bags. Let's take a look at them. Most of these guys are probably not self-aware about that, but they pick up on it. They just naturally pick up on it. You're there to serve her, and she's not really saying much about what she's going to be doing for you at all. And this is her pitch, right? So like, are these guys like, look at this guy. This guy doesn't know what weighs up, probably. Are these guys thinking that through? Not really, but they do pick up on it just kind of naturally, right? And not all of these guys look like D-bags. This guy looks like a very pleasant fella. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's actually pretty simple. The red flags that she's throwing here, like I don't know. I feel like I intuitively just saw them because, again, I've got a lot of experience here in my past. And I've seen this go wrong so many times for so many guys, including myself. And but just thinking through how she pitches herself here, I think most Christians can see that, yes, she's throwing out a lot of stuff that does increase the risk, that does kind of make her somewhat questionable. And again, this is a 1-minute pitch. Obviously, she's got more dimensions than this, but she's the one who chose to present what she presented. And so when you accept that and you take what she says and you take it seriously, you can kind of see why so many guys are reacting the way they are to this, right? Look, does that mean that you should call her, a whore or whatever? No, obviously not. But the thing is, though, that what she does choose to present, there's a red flag there about that issue as well. That's not how I read it when I first saw the video. But when you think about it for a second, that kind of wanderlust, adventure, eat, pray, love type style that she's presenting, that's trouble, my friend. That's big trouble. Now, if she had, more than a minute to talk about herself, maybe I would think differently, but that's just not how the game is played. She played the game the way she thought she would play it. Here's another thing that I noticed as well. The body language of a lot of these guys, you could see them looking around at each other. And when I first saw this, I didn't know that they couldn't see each other, like the men and the women couldn't see each other. And so, but this still applies either way. You can see that these guys are looking for how everybody else reacts. You know what I mean? They're playing it up for each other, right? And nobody wants to be the one that kind of breaks from the pack. I think there's a couple guys here that were at least a little bit interested in her, but nobody acted because they didn't want to break from the pack. And likewise, think about this. She's playing up for the ladies what she thinks the ladies think is attractive, right? So it changes the dynamic when they can't see each other, right? So she's talking about the eat, pray, love fantasy adventure because in her mind, that's what the ladies think is attractive. Not even considering for a moment what the men are going to think is attractive, right? And so, like, it changes the dynamic quite a bit. Like, each group is playing to each other a lot because they can only see each other. And so there's really no, reason to not do that. You know what I mean? But even if they could see each other, I think this probably would have gone the same way. I think there's other things to consider, too. Like, if they could see her, I mean, she's not ugly, obviously, but like just the way that she's dressed and the way she carries herself, it's not. These are also red flags, right? These are also red flags. Like she's not really doing herself any favors. She's like almost dressing and appearing like in an ironic way. And again, these are risk factors that you have to consider if you're thinking about someone to date or to marry. These are risk factors. Like, I don't really know how else to say it. It just is. This is a red flag. So anyway, that's what I have to say about that. I think the thing to keep in mind is that, being a Christian doesn't require you to ignore like reality as it's presented to you. You know what I mean? I think I was talking about this, like, like you meet someone, and the first thing they talk about is they want you to be an adventure buddy. They want you to go on these expensive vacations and stuff like that. And again, most men, I mean, listen, to me, it's always weird when a man does the eat, pray, love thing. I'm thinking, who I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about that dude. What's the name of that dude that used to like be close to Stone Choir, and then he made anti-Stone Choir stuff. What was his name? Forget his name, but he did the eat, pray, love thing. And it always strikes me as odd when a guy does that. You know what I mean? It's just very strange. I'm not saying it's like it's not legitimate. You can't do what you want to do, but it's not common. Most men don't want to do the eat, pray, love thing. Will Spencer's his name. Like, he did kind of present it as, like I'm like the Indiana Jones. I think he said something like that once. And if he didn't, I'm sorry. I don't mean to put words into your mouth. But it's not like Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones was a grave robber. You were just doing the spiritual journey, eat, pray, love. You know what I mean? That's a lot different. But anyway, like, that's odd. That's not what most guys really want to do. They will do that stuff with their wife once they're married, once they're committed, once they love them, once they want to please them and do things for them and stuff like that. They'll do stuff like that with their wives. But most guys, for the most part, are okay. Look, like if I didn't leave, the New Hampshire area for a year, like I would be totally fine. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm totally fine doing what I'm doing here in New Hampshire. And I go places, but it's not like a deep burning desire here, right? So I think the woman here and probably all the women here, you could even see like when she introduced herself, they all went, "Aw," she got the approval that she was looking for. That's what the women were looking for someone who's cute and fun and adorable and seems nice, as if that's what guys are looking for. And I just don't. I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding of what guys are looking for. Like if I met my wife and she presented herself this way, that wouldn't have been a point in her favor. What my wife did do when we first met was talk about how, she always thought that I think she had baked something for the church or something like that, cookie, a muffin, I don't know what it was. And, early on when we first started talking, she talked about how like she used to do that thinking that it would attract a guy, you know what I mean? Cooking for him. And I'm willing to bet that like 90% of the time that would work better than this presentation, because that is what I'm looking for. In other words, like I am looking for someone that will cook for me and, take care of me in that way. And when eventually we have kids, we'll cook for the kids and, all that kind of stuff. Like that tracks a lot better with 90% of guys that are looking for a wife. The eat, pray, love thing, like that's cute as an add-on, but it also is a big red flag in so many ways that it's almost not even worth it. And again, nothing wrong with wanting to travel, but when you make it part of your core personality, and this is so much so that this is how you pitch yourself to guys that potentially could be your husband, it is 100% smart for the guy to look at that as a red flag, not only with just the travel. If it was isolated just to travel, that's enough. But because it's rarely isolated to travel. I mean, how many stories have you heard of the woman that likes to travel and ends up childless and, in debt and all this kind of stuff? Because, and listen. There it is. That's all I've got to say. In any case, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you don't feel the same way about this situation, I got nothing against you. I'm just telling you how it is for most guys out there that reacted negatively to this video. And the other thing is, why does she dress this way? Makes no sense whatsoever. The other thing that when Jacob Honeycutt told me that they can't see each other, one of the big factors here, especially when you can't see her, is her voice. The voice is doing a lot of the damage too. It's just not appealing. It just isn't. That's part of it too. And if you're going in blind and you only have certain data to go off of, then that data all of a sudden becomes a lot more meaningful, which is it's even worse to pitch yourself this way when they can't see you, right? Because some of those guys might be like, oh wow, redhead, she's cute, curly hair. I'll let all that other stuff slide. But when you're going in blind, you know what I mean? You can't see the person. You can only hear what they're having to say. All of the data points mean much, much more than they would had you been able to see her. This is the truth, man. I'm sorry to break it to you. This is just how it is. And don't feel bad that just because you're a Christian that you can't use the data that's presented to you in a way that makes sense of it, in a way that it's realistic. You know what I mean? There's nothing about Christianity that means you have to throw caution to the wind. You can't use the actual physical data that's in front of you. Nothing about that is required for Christians. In any case, I hope you found this video helpful. God bless. I thought of something else, too. Yesterday, on LinkedIn, I saw a feminist, and she told a little story, and it was supposed to talk about unconscious bias, right? And she said, one day a father and his son were in a car crash, and it was a very bad car crash. The father died, and the son was brought to the emergency room right away for emergency surgery. The surgeon looks at the patient and says, I can't do surgery on this patient because he's my son. Figure it out, right? And in the LinkedIn example, she says, most people will rack their brains trying to figure it out. How could this be? What's the riddle? How could he solve this? But really the answer is simple. The surgeon is his mother. So you see unconscious bias, all that nonsense. Who cares, right? And the whole idea is that when you picture a surgeon in your mind, you picture a guy typically, right? Because most surgeons are guys. And that's bad somehow. Don't ask me to explain it, whatever, right? But this is actually kind of true, though. Like, we do have that unconscious sort of image of what a certain profession is, or a certain kind of person is, and it comes from how we were raised. It comes from how we experience the world. I mean, if you lived in a place where somehow there were tons of female surgeons, well, you would have had the opposite issue, right? Of course, and it doesn't really mean anything. It's just part of anyway. There's nothing wrong with having that unconscious bias in your head, right? And here's the other thing that you need to consider. Most of these guys here if they're thinking about, okay, I'm looking for a wife. Well, what is a wife in their mind? They're not doing this consciously. This is an unconscious thing. What's their experience with wives? Well, the experience with wives is typically their mother, right? And how many of their mothers, I mean, seriously, this is a serious thing. How many of their mothers were scuba diving in Australia, were skiing on the Swiss Alps, were looking for an adventure buddy? Probably none of them, right? Probably none of them. And that's just how it is. And so when they hear this, they don't think a wife. They don't think mother to my future children. What they think is eat, pray, love. They're not interested in that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that because they've got an archetype. They've got something that chances are most of them had good mothers. They love their mothers. And it's not like they want to marry their mother, but they are looking for someone to be eventually the mother to their children. And so what's a mother like? What's a wife like? Their primary experience with that is what their mom was like with their dad. And so ladies, like, I'm just telling you this. If you're watching this, you're single, this is just some free advice from old AD, Uncle AD over here. When you're pitching yourself, hopefully you're not doing it on a dating show, but if you are, and even if you're not, keep that in mind, that the movies that you've seen and the social media content that you listen to is not necessarily giving you a real view of what reality really is like, right? I'm just telling you. Most guys out there, they're not looking to be somebody's adventure buddy. It's a hard, look, for some of you that might be a hard truth, but it's true. That doesn't mean you won't have adventures, but that's not what they're looking for. Their mother was likely not the adventurer, with their father being the adventure buddy. That's not how it was 99% of the time. So if you're in an opportunity where you're pitching yourself, and you're pitching yourself the opposite of what 99% of people are looking for or expect, you can't really complain when they all look at each other like, who's this? Who's this? Are you serious? Just a little free advice for you. Take care.